Hey there, I'm Cynthia and welcome to the Daily Dinner Fix, where 5 days a week I answer the question of what's for dinner. Today we're going to be going south of the border, actually a couple of borders, because we're going to Peru. And we're going to be making a Peruvian classic, Tallarin Verdes, and we're going to be serving that alongside a breaded chicken cutlet. Now, literally translated, Tallarin Verdes means green spaghetti, and where the spaghetti is getting its green from is, well, a couple of places. One, spinach, two, basil. This is actually a Peruvian take on an Italian pesto. If you weren't aware, there have actually been a couple of significant migrations of Italian immigrants to Peru, the first one dating back to the 1800s, the latter at the tail end of World War II. And of course, anytime you get a large group of people immigrating from one place to another, they bring their customs, they bring their food. And in the case of the Italians going to Peru, they brought pesto. So let's get started. Now, the first thing we're going to be doing is we're going to be making our sauce, which is super simple to make. I've already assembled everything here. The first thing we're adding to the blender is about, a cup and a half of spinach leaves. It's a pretty generous, packed cup and a half of spinach leaves. To that, we're going to add about half a cup of basil leaves. We're going to add half a tablespoon of onion. And of course, I am providing the full recipe below, so if you can't jot this down, don't worry. We've got two tablespoons of walnuts, a clove of garlic that I've roughly chopped, 2 ounces of queso fresco. Now, queso fresco is just a fresh cheese. In Peru, it can be made with either goat's milk or cow's milk, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong on that one. Because it's just a lot easier for me to find, I'm using Mexican queso fresco here, which is a fresh cow's milk cheese. So we're going to add that. We have a 1/4 cup of evaporated milk, half a teaspoon of kosher salt, and not the cap, but a tablespoon of olive oil. That's about a tablespoon. All right, so I'm gonna just mix this up in my blender. It's gonna get loud for a second, so bear with me. All right, so let me take a look at that. Yeah, that looks pretty smooth. So as you can see, that's a beautiful bright green color, really aromatic. Actually, it looks like I still have some stragglers in there. I'm gonna give that one more blend, actually. Let's see. All right, that should do it. Yeah, that looks pretty good. All right, so as I was starting to tell you, this is a beautiful bright green color, really aromatic. It doesn't look like a whole lot of sauce, but we're making this for 2 people, so this is actually plenty. We're just going to set this aside while we make our pasta. So I have back here some salted water that was just about boiling earlier, so I'm going to bring that back up to a boil. And to that, I'm going to add half a pound of pasta. So I'm just going to do some tidying up and we'll get that going and then we'll get started on the chicken. All right, so our water's back up to boiling. We're going to add a half pound of pasta, which is half of this box. And then you're going to cook this according to the manufacturer's instructions, only you're going to pull it out maybe 2 minutes before it's al dente. So on this box, I believe it says 10 to 11 minutes for al dente. So I'm actually going to cook this for 8 minutes. And the reason I'm doing that is because I can't talk and count at the same time. The reason I'm doing that is because I'm going to finish cooking the pasta in the sauce and I don't want to end up overcooking it. So that's why I'm going to pull it out a little earlier. All right, so moving on to our chicken. So what I have here, I took an 8-ounce chicken breast that I kind of sliced crosswise into 2 thinner cutlets. And we're just going to pound these thin until they're about a 1/4 inch thick. You can use a meat mallet for this. Sometimes I just like literally just use the palm of my hand. I know that's like some serious aggression, but I don't know. I kind of like using my hand because it allows me to kind of get a feel for the chicken and how thin it's being pounded, and I don't have to clean it up after, which is kind of nice. So just giving this a pound, and of course you probably saw this in the video, I did put a piece of plastic wrap over this, so it's not like I'm just pounding a raw piece of chicken. And as you're pounding the chicken, maybe I can do this here so you can see, you kind of want to pound down and out. Wow, that's really loud. So down and out and not just like flat, because that's going to, well, by pounding down and out, that's going to encourage the spread of the chicken on the board. All right, so there's one. Let's do this other one. All right, so those look pretty even to me. So we're gonna assemble those in a sec, but first what I wanna do is I wanna give my pasta a stir. I actually meant to do this earlier. Let's just give that a stir so that it doesn't stick. And then one thing about cooking pasta is you wanna make sure that when you're seasoning your pasta water that it's super salty. It should be salty as the sea, because the thing with pasta is if you're not adding the salt into the pasta during the boiling process, it's really hard to season pasta like after the fact. So if I were to like, I've totally forgotten the salt, I pull it out and I'm like, oh, this doesn't taste like right, and like add more salt, like no matter how much salt I add, it's never going to taste right because it didn't get cooked into the pasta during the boiling process. So you want to make sure, again, water is salty as the sea. Don't be afraid of the salt here. Anyway, back to our chicken. So what I have assembled here, let's see, how can I do this so you can actually see it? So I have an egg that I've beaten. I have some flour, and then I have just some unseasoned breadcrumbs. And what I'm going to do to all 3 of these things is I am going to season them each lightly with just some salt and some fresh cracked black pepper. Now, if you don't want to do breaded chicken with this, you could totally do grilled chicken. I've seen this on restaurant menus with grilled chicken. I've even seen this on restaurant menus without any chicken at all. So if you want to go vegetarian on this, you certainly can. So first thing we're going to do, let's get our flour over here. We're going to take our cutlets and we're going to dredge them in the flour to coat. And the reason we're doing this step first is if I were to just put this chicken cutlet into the egg first, what's going to happen is the egg is just going to slide right off because it's got nothing to stick to. So by dredging it in the flour, we're giving that egg something to cling to. And then finally, we're going to put it in the breadcrumbs. And you're just going to coat both sides, kind of pressing that in. Let's do the next one. So same thing, dredge on both sides with the flour, then the egg. Oh, I missed a spot there, so let's flip that back over. You want to make sure this is totally coated. And I'm using tongs here. I mean, you could use your hands, but then you're kind of making a mess of your hands. Okay, so I actually need a plate to put these on. All right. So this one, okay, you can see that I've kind of made sure that I've pressed this evenly. Gonna set that aside just on another plate so I can make room for this other cutlet. It's okay, just keep churning it until it's evenly coated. And actually, I am going to season the chicken. I know we seasoned the breadcrumbs and the flour and the egg, but I do want to give the chicken just a light seasoning on both sides. Making a lot of noise today with the salt and pepper. So I'm going to do the one side, and then when I put this in the pan, I'm going to put the seasoned side down and then season the other side. Let's see. All right, so let me pull out a skillet. All right, to the skillet, we're going to add a tablespoon of olive oil. And a dab of butter. I just love cooking chicken in like butter. We're just gonna warm this up. Let me do some tidying up over here. Making a mess today. Let's see. So this is just starting to foam. And I've got this going over like a medium-high heat. So remember what I said, seasoned side is going to go down first. So I season the top of these, so I'm going to flip this over as I put it into the pan. Put the seasoned side down first. And then we're going to season the other side of this. Oh, and there goes our pasta. So let me turn that off on the back. We're going to let these cutlets brown for about 3 minutes per side. So let me just set a timer. Meanwhile, I'm going to drain this pasta. One thing I want to do with the pasta. Got a clean bowl here. I want to drain some of the pasta cooking water into a measuring cup, a bowl, what have you. Just a tiny bit, because we're going to use that. We may use that when we go to assemble the dish, just to kind of keep the pasta the right consistency. But let me drain this first. All right, so we're just going to set our pasta aside. I'm going to cover it to keep it warm. Actually, you know what I'm going to do? I'm not going to cover it to keep it warm. I'm going to add our sauce. So that sauce we made earlier, we're just going to pour into our pasta. Oh, this chicken smells so good. I mean, you could cook anything in butter and it would be pretty darn delicious. Let me wash these tongs real quick. Sorry, all my other tongs are in the dishwasher. All right, so we're just giving this a toss. As you can see, that's plenty of sauce. And it doesn't look like we're going to need the pasta cooking water right now, but we're going to turn that heat back on and we're going to cook that for like another 2 minutes over low heat. So remember what I was telling you earlier about we're going to finish cooking the pasta in the sauce? That's exactly what we're doing. If we were to bite into this pasta right now, it still would not be al dente. So we're just going to cook that for another few minutes. This chicken is ready to be flipped. Look at that. Is that not gorgeous? Now there was still about 40 seconds left on the timer, but I can tell just by the smell of this chicken that it was ready to be flipped. So don't always go by the timer. Learn to trust your nose, your eyes, trust your senses. Things cook at different temperatures depending on the skillet and your stove, whether you're cooking on gas or electric. So, you know, if I tell you 2 to 3 minutes, just kind of keep an eye on things. Just use your sense, pretty much. So we're just going to cook this for another few minutes until it's browned on the other side and cooked through. Give our pasta a toss. This is looking good. And let me turn this heat down actually. Yeah, because that's starting to smoke. And that's not what we want. Actually, let me taste the sauce for salt. That's so good. It's like garlicky and fresh. This is actually a good way to like sneak vegetables into someone's diet. If they hate eating vegetables, just don't tell them there's spinach in there. All right, let's look at our chicken. Yeah, that's done. All right, so to plate this, I'm gonna pile some of this spaghetti on a plate. It's about half the spaghetti. Again, this serves two. Just trying to get that to look pretty. Didn't quite work out for me. All right, we're gonna take one of our chicken cutlets. Oh no, I removed some of the breading there. It's okay. There we go. It's still gonna be delicious. And then we're gonna take some fresh, well, not some fresh cheese, some actually aged cheese, some aged Parmesan cheese, and we're gonna just freshly grate it. That's what I meant to say. Freshly grate it using my trusty microplane here. And there you have it, tallarines verdes with pollo apanado. Oh, you didn't think I wasn't gonna taste this, did you? Of course I'm gonna taste this. It smells and looks amazing. I'm just gonna cut a little piece, a little corner of the chicken. This chicken is still really hot. And ideally, if you're making this, or when you're making this at home, right? When you're making this, you wanna let the chicken rest for just a few minutes, because it is gonna continue to cook for like a good 5-10 minutes after you've taken it off the heat. So you wanna let it rest so all those juices don't just like run all over the place the minute you cut into your chicken. So I'm gonna try the chicken first. I love breaded chicken. I'm gonna get a little bit of the pasta in there. Okay. You know, this is one of those dishes that I sometimes go a long time without making it, and then every time I make it, I'm like, why don't I make this more often? Like, this is absolutely delicious. So I encourage you to make it at home. As you saw, super easy to make. Oh, and one thing I forgot to mention earlier. So I was talking about that pasta cooking water. If you find as you're cooking your pasta that it thickens up too much, just add some of the cooking water to thin it out. And it's also going to help that pasta absorb some of the sauce as you're finished cooking it. In this case, I didn't need it, so I didn't add it, but want to make sure I circle back to that. I'm going to keep eating. Hope you make this at home and enjoy.